Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. And thank you very much, Thomas, for the kind introduction. My name is Christoph Schommer. I'm from the Department of Computer Science, and I'm also very much involved in the project ASH 2022 with our AI and Art Pavilion. So I would like to organize the talk today in two parts. The first part is about, let's say, general impressions, general overview of AI and arts. And the second part will be about our projects that we are intending to give at the ASH 2022 Cultural Capital of Europe in this year. So I start now. From different views, one can say that there have been extraordinary developments in artificial intelligence and data science that increasingly determine our lives. Think, for example, of the many intelligent assistants that play an ever greater role in many areas of our daily life. And arts is also affected by this, and the computer-assisted and AI-assisted implementation of creative ideas and thoughts and experimentation with new things have led to very innovative results. Some months ago, the head of the German Telekom proudly informed us through a cleverly contrived marketing campaign that the 10th Symphony of Ludwig van Beethoven would have finally been composed with the help of deep learning. That is quite interesting, but however, I must confess that the implicit general assertion, the 10th Symphony, bothers me a lot here, and one version of the 10th Symphony would have definitely fit better. I'm sure that not all of you welcome this new kind of collaborative creativity. For some of us, art is still creating through our own efforts alone. That is without an intelligent computer-assisted support. For others, however, creativity with the help of AI is very much welcome, even explicitly desired, even with tools such as deep learning, which is currently on everyone's lips. There's one advantage of artificial art making. Whereas Van Gogh, Picasso, Shakespeare, Mozart, Beethoven, and all the other masters created their works partly or perhaps even predominantly at night or in connection with extraordinary emotional states, such as infatuation or suffering, AI and art systems actually offer the possibility of producing an output 24 hours a day. Perhaps there's an acceptable compromise in between, and perhaps one should see the intensity of collaboration from a gradual point of view, and maybe in an interval, let's say from 0 to 1. Additionally, we should think about labeling artificially created artifacts by using, for example, made by robot, the artificial painter. Since its unofficial birth in Greek mythology, when Talos, the robot made entirely of bronze by Hephaestus, protected Crete from invaders, but especially since its official birth in 1956, many innovations in AI and with AI have been made, and especially art is concerned here. In the following, I would first like to briefly introduce some selected AI projects for the arts with a focus on how creativity is seen. In the second part, I will then talk about the AI and Art Pavilion. In 1973, for example, Harold Cohen, a former researcher and painter from the University of California in San Diego, collaborated with a program called Aaron. This program was able to make pictures autonomously, and for many years, Harold Cohen made jokes like that he was the first artist who would ever be able to have a posthumous exhibition of new work created entirely after his own death. He questioned whether these pictures, which the evolving program has made, are works by himself, independent creations by the machine called Aaron, or perhaps a kind of collaboration. He understood this was, and still does, a delicate problem. Aaron has never moved far out, and the general stylistic idiom in which he worked in, for example, in the 1960s, when he was a successful exponent of color field extraction. But he often mentioned that Aaron has been somehow his student. Harold Cohen raised some of the unresolved questions about machine art. For example, what is its potential? Can, irrespective of the quality of the work produced, the produced work be described as creative or imaginative? These are problems, profound and fascinating, that take us deep into the mysteries of human art making. Painting Fool is from Simon Colton, a professor who is currently working at Queen Mary University in London. He suggested in 2013 that if programs are to count as creative, they will have to pass something different from the Turing test. He suggested that rather than simply being able to converse in a convincingly human manner, such as Turing proposed, an AI artist would have to behave in ways that were, or that should be, skillful, appreciative, and imaginative. In 2015, Alex Mordvintsev and the Google Brain research team published some fascinating results. After training to identify objects using visual cues and inputting photos of skiers and randomly shaped objects, their program began to generate digital images reminiscent of the combined imaginations of Walt Disney and Peter Bruegel the Elder. Among them was a hybrid pig snail, a camel bird, and a dogfish. This was a new art form called inceptionism, named after the inception algorithm in which a neural network gradually zooms in on an image and tries to see in the context of what it already knows. This inception algorithm is based on a convolutional network for assisting in image analysis and object detection. It got its start as a module for GoogleNet. So I demonstrate it now. I click on the button here, on the YouTube button. I hope that the YouTube channel will open and then we can have a look at it. So I stop here because I think the main issues could have been seen. So I go back to the slides. So this was, let's say, this inceptionism. I refer to an article from Art News from, I think, 2017. Not sure, yeah, 2017, about Holly Herndon. And she's one of several musicians who champion the laptop as an instrument and who has relied on the software's vocal manipulations in her debut album Movement in 2012. She calls the device as the most personal instrument the world has ever seen. Some years later, actually these days, she takes a more critical view on AI. She uses it more to show her own limitations and at the same time to use her skills as a musical collaborator. Her goal is not to replace the human element, but as she says, to enhance it. This is Taryn Southern. She's a pop artist. She has worked with several AI platforms to co-produce her debut album, I Am AI, in 2017. Her single, Break Free, is a human-AI collaboration. She says, using AI, I'm writing my lyrics and vocal melodies to the music and using that as a source of inspiration because I'm able to iterate with the music and because it gives feedback and parameters and because I can edit as many times as I need, it still feels like it is mine. This is an example project from Xander Steenbroeke. He is from Belgium, from Ghent, and he has developed an AI system that creates visualizations in time with music, achieving mesmerizing results. The piece is part of the project Neural Synesthesia, which is designed to use music to create visualizations in a number of different ways. Steenbroeke makes it clear that he does not create these works, but that he brings them to life together with his AI models. In his opinion, AI does not fully create the work, and neither does he. It is very much a collaboration. This, I think, is very famous, and maybe you know it already. It's, let's say, Obvious, and Obvious is a collective of researchers and artists who work with deep learning networks to explore the creative potential of artificial intelligence in arts. And that's, let's say, why they have become very famous. In 2017-18, Obvious fed 15,000 classical portraits into a generative adversarial networks, the GANs, and let these deep learning technique autonomously create a series of new portraits. And from these, they selected some of them and thus founded the so-called Bellamy family. The presented family tree that you can see on the right upper side is therefore completely fictitious. The painting of Edmond Bellamy, is this one, was finally auctioned and sold at Christie's for more than 400,000 US dollars, almost twice as much as other paintings by Roy Lichtenstein and Andy Warhol together. However, not everyone who knew its artificial character considered the painting Edmond Bellamy as to be art, but for Pierre Fautrel, which is one of the co-founders of Obvious, this is completely different. He says that there is no doubt, as he explains, even though the generative adversarial networks, the GANs, have created this painting artificially, it is up to us humans, to decide, to compute, and to print it on canvas. This is something I like very much. That's from Ranjit Bhatnagar. He's a programmer and artist at the same time. And he invented his Pentametron machine. This is a result of an art project in which he mined the Twitter sphere for tweets in iambic pentameter. Firstly, he used a pronouncing dictionary. Actually, he used one from Carnegie Mellon University. And then he built a program to count syllables and to recognize meter. Then with a separate piece of code to identify rhymes, he started to assemble sonnets. For the first National Novel Generation Month competition, 2013, Bhatnagar submitted an artificial created poem, I Got an Alligator for a Pet, a collection of 504 sonnets created with his machine Pentametron. Bhatnagar's code requires that each line must be an entire tweet, or essentially one complete thought, or at least what Twitter counts as to be a thought. It also did its best to abide by strict rules of meter and rhyme. And this is, let's say, how I got an alligator for a pet has become machine written. There's a lecture given at a Steiner lecture given here in Germany about creative inquiry. I have the link here, so if you're interested, please feel free to check it out. This is Mary Flanagan. She is from, from Dartmouth College in England. So the Turing test has long been a standard for assessing artificial intelligence, but in the context of making art, rather than simulating consciousness, it may not be the last word. It may not be the most valuable or the most interesting metric. This says Mary Flanagan, a poet, artist, and professor of digital humanities at Dartmouth College. She thinks the notion that machine-generated poems should be expected to pass the Turing test as to be very boring. Humans are already good at producing human-sounding sonnets, as she says, so why get a computer to do that? And she claims that we should do something new. This is Memo Akten. He talks about machines reflect our consciousness, and he's an artist, researcher, and philomathist whose projects use machine learning to reflect on ourselves and to explore how we make sense of the world. Memo Akten has trained an algorithm to see using images that represent essential concepts of human life. To get images that reflect our common humanity, he downloaded photos from Flickr that were tagged with the given words like, for example, universe, flowers, life, etc. He then programmed the machine to imagine new images based on all of them. The result is a journey through the imagination of a machine, as he explains. Also here the link is given, YouTube, and there's a nice video about his imaginations and about his project. This is about Bill Jones from New York. And he has given several workshops some years ago, actually in 2019, about body movement and language. And so Bill T. Jones is a choreographer and artistic director of New York Live Arts in Manhattan. And he has made many activities. He has produced lots of activities that encompass an annual presenting season together with allied education, programming, and services for artists. The video accessible on YouTube includes some components and results of the workshops and shows some fascinating pictures of his educational style. And I would like to show you what he does and what he teaches. So it's another YouTube video, but I skip directly to the minute 6, to the 6 minutes, because otherwise it's too long.
I come in today as a dancing human.
So let's see.
Like, I don't know, we're still learning about how you get it back.
Yeah, I understand.
So if she turns away, the sound will go out. If we're imposing those two ideas together, then we want to be more intentional about where we are, where to hold and pause so we can control the switches more.
We have ended up at the end of the day using this as the canvas.
Right. Yeah.
But it took us a while to understand that's what we're doing. This is going to be taking us to the end of this century, and important is supposed to be happening with this when you put it in the hands of people. This is great.
This project stands out to me because it demonstrates how POSNet can be used in a way that feels
very meaningful and very conceptual, and I haven't seen that with a lot of other projects that involve machine learning or ProseNet specifically.
I think it's also important that we be able to center our artists, right? And especially as a tech company, the importance of understanding that our artists are our place of humanity.
I'm known for talking solos. This is what I do.
Yes.
I've been doing it for 30 years. Do you want to have Bill T. Jones doing it and hear the way Bill T. Jones says the words?
Yes.
But then we should have the microphone on then.
Let's stop here and continue with the presentation. If you are interested in the full workshop, I think there's a 15 minutes presentation given on the YouTube, and feel free to use. Yeah, maybe two last slide for the first part. So this is storytelling, and this is a commercial company called Charisma. And Charisma is an interactive comic app that puts the user into a story where they talk to the characters and thereby influence the stories themselves. The titles available in the comic app are adaptations of successful graphic novels. For example, Sherlock Holmes and the Vampires of London. The interrogation is an interactive drama. The user is thrown into a room with a dangerous killer and must convince the killer to spare his next victims. Working with fictional characters, the user must figure out what the killer wants and help stop the murders. The user must act quickly and be able to save each of the victims. Last slide, the first part is about IVA, and IVA is a Luxembourg company and created in February 2016. IVA is specialized in classical and symphonic music compositions. It became the world's first virtual composer to be recognized by a music society, SACEM, S-A-C-E-M. By reading a large collection of exciting works of classical music written by human composers such as Johann Sebastian Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, and so on, IVA is capable of detecting regularities in music and on this base composing on its own. IVA uses deep learning and reinforcement learning. Since January 2019, the company offers the music engine, which is capable of generating short, up to 3 minutes compositions in various styles, like rock, pop, classic, and so on, jazz as well. The slide shows a preview of the opus number 3 for piano solo, titled A Little Chamber Music. And this, let's say, is completely composed by the machine. I also have a link here. I would also, let's say, give a short introduction what they do. I mean, the slides will be made available so you can have a look at it, and you can also follow then the full movie. Okay, so part 2 is about our AI and art pavilion. And basically we are colleagues from the University of Luxembourg and also from the LIST. We work enthusiastically on the interface between art, culture, and artificial intelligence. And I would like to show today some of our projects that we are currently running and that we are currently doing. Basically, the AI and Art Pavilion consists of 3 core components, which are known under the name of Magneto, Cornerstone, and Singularity. Singularity collects initiatives in which artists reflect on the interaction between our physical and digital existence. Scientists and artists provide high-level technical and scientific support for the realization of art projects. Conversely, artists are involved in producing blueprints for creative engineers whose concepts require the artistic expertise of visual artists. Cornerstone, the project Cornerstone offers visitors playful and interactive initiatives to experiment discover, rethink their own beliefs. These small projects can use techniques of symbolic and sub-symbolic AI to create an art product. And last but not least, the Magneto project consists of various events that aim to inform and engage audiences in discussions about the role of artificial intelligence. The events are aimed at school children, students, general and specialized audiences. We started basically in 2021 and took up the idea of AI and art in various events. For example, at IFA 2021, Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Arts, and also at BNIC, where we organized a workshop on AI and arts, and we invited also two well-known speakers, which were Manuela Navo and from Ars Electronica and from the University of Linz in Austria, and also Iris van der Thuyn from Utrecht University. At IFA at BNIC, participants explored the increasing interactions between AI and art, addressing a wide range of topics such as the role of AI as a tool for creating art in the visual and performing arts, the type of AI technology used and deployed, or how AI as technology can become a material component of a work of art. There were also some various events like interviews, podcasts in collaboration with ESH 2022, with Battle Royale Berlin, with Rethink Berlin, with ESH 2022 themselves, as well as a participation in a panel discussion invited by the EU National Institutes of Culture in Brussels about future living with AI. We also installed one of our projects at the Luxembourg Science Center, which is, and Luxembourg Science Center is a science and technology center for the general public. I come to this in a few moments. So this is, this picture here shows the result of a project, or one result of a project that I did together with my former students, Jiaqin, Jingjing, Mei, and Se, in the course Machine Learning. That was in the winter term 2019-2020. And this was about our own photographies, our own snapshots that we have taken from the University of Luxembourg, Campus Belval. And based on these photos, we used the TensorFlow library, a software library with deep learning capabilities, particularly the autoencoder library, to create new photos in an artistic style. And what you can see here is even the big parking place, the big parking slot of the Campus Belval in Van Gogh style. And this became part of our 2020 calendar. And also this project was an initialization and also a very strong motivation for the for our contribution for ESH 2022. So the next is a video I would like to show.
Everybody loves selfies. To experiment, to create, to get that perfect shot. Selfies are not new. Selfies, or portraits, have been around for thousands of years. An Egyptian made the first portrait 5,000 years ago. Let's see how they have changed over the years. Before 1800, portraits were very expensive. Only the upper classes could afford a portrait. Surprise, surprise. All looked handsome, young, imposing, grand. Francisco de Goya was the first to include some honesty in his portraits. You might have heard about the Mona Lisa. Almost everybody knows her. Can you guess what makes her so mysterious, so beautiful, so impressive? Could it be Leonardo the artist? Leonardo da Vinci perfected the painting technique called sfumato. Is the sfumato what makes Mona Lisa's face so alive? The DIY for painting and photography came with the Industrial Revolution. Art supplies and photography became affordable. Everyone could be a painter and get a photograph done. When portraits became popular, how do you think artists reacted? Take a look at the portraits by Van Gogh or Gauguin. What has changed? How come the colors are so bright, so alive? Also, the selfies do not look real, right? Other artists like Picasso or Matisse shook things up even more. Where are the faces? Why so many lines? Creativity has no limit. In the 1960s, Andy Warhol had a very bold idea. He brought familiar things into art, like the tomato soup can or Marilyn Monroe. And what about today? Street artists paint our cities with beautiful and powerful images. Do you have any favorites? What is it that makes them so unique? Art is fascinating. Our smart photo booth, our QT robot called Cutie, has learned all about those styles and artists, and he is happy to show you. Do you want to try Cutie's art? Cutie is an intelligent robot.
Yes, so far about Cutie, our robot. Let's say if I would have been on site, I could show it and demonstrate how Cutie is working, but in a moment it's not possible. Maybe I describe how Cutie is working.
Christoph, I was just mindful of
yes.
the time. Perhaps we should wrap quite soon, just because I'm sure people will want to ask questions.
Okay. Should I speed up or should I? How do we proceed?
I mean, do you think you could wrap it up in the next 3 or 4 minutes, or how much longer do you?
Okay, 10 minutes is fine. Yes. Okay, then maybe I speed up. Maybe I give an overview about the projects. Then I do it a little bit faster. Then. Okay. Basically, Cutie is our robot. It's let's say has been let's say taken from LuxAI. LuxAI is a startup company based in Luxembourg, and we implemented our solution with the QT robot, which you can see here. And basically, the idea is that a user comes or goes into a box, talks to in natural language to the QT robot, can select a style, and QT produces them. Let's say the selfie or the own photography of the user in an artistic style, and the outcome is then a fully automatically generated picture. Like let's say I could go there and then I let Qt make a photography of myself, and then Qt translates this into Van Gogh style, for example. So that's, let's say, possible. Then we have here some kind of industrial involvement, algorithmic perfumery. That's, let's say, something we are currently working on, and this is about profiling of a visitor, profiling of a visitor. The visitor can say what he likes or what she dislikes, and so on. And based on that, a specific perfumery is created. So maybe here some projects. This is we see slide number 22. Yes. So this is let's say Deus Ex Machina. The project deals with the complex topic of religion. For this purpose, various chatbots have been created with which the user can talk about religious topics and enter into dialogue. The project aims to address the complex topic both philosophically and entertainingly by creating different chatbot identities based on the different scriptures. We engage our audience live and online with many open questions about ethics, morality, and religion. Steph is an avatar that embodies a 10-year-old street boy. Steph is a self-playing AI character for a historical and transmedia, massively multiplayer online role-playing game. The story takes place in Luxembourg City in the year of 1867. Steph is constantly learning from what he experiences. The player's task is to give Steph instructions and interact with him, and also by communicating with other characters in the game. This is AI avatar dancing. In this project, we design a dancing avatar that can dance based on input music. The avatar also interacts with visitors. The implementation of the dance generation and human interaction is done using, among others, the GANs, the generative adversarial networks. Interactive mirror. This is an experimental interactive art installation called Interactive Mirror. We apply deep fakes and deep learning systems like the neural style transform technologies that changes the image and background of a person and makes the viewer question their vision and themselves and the reality that surrounds them. The project aims to bring an artistic touch to the user's world. Interactive mirror changes the user's image and background based on the artwork created by the artist. The AI is trained to transform the mirror image and background into art. Project Einstein. The project offers a virtual experience with a black hole through a black hole sculpture. The sculpture interacts with users through light and sound effects via multiple sensors to give the feeling of being pulled into a black hole. The project is a virtual reality simulation. Thalamus initiation. This project uses an artificial neural network to visualize the lyrics of a song. A music video is created with a series of original images generated and interpolated by the AI system. This is DAL image. The project experiments with state-of-the-art machine learning models from the AI library OpenAI, taking the original approach of Duchamp, a French painter, sculptor, chess player, and writer, whose work is associated with Cubism, Dada, and conceptual art. The AI generates images, mysterious objects that resemble 20th century industrial design. We are working on an AI tool whose results resemble art criticism as realistically as possible. Fountain is ready-made sculpture by this artist, by Marcel Duchamp, consisting of a porcelain urinal signed R.Mat. Fountain is Duchamp's most famous work. Fountain was made from an ordinary manufactured object and had been presented as artwork in 1917. This invites to question what makes an object art. Is this urinal art because it is presented in a gallery? Is this original 1917 version of this work really art? And especially because it has become lost, only a small number of copies could have been made thereafter. And the question, of course, is also whether it makes a difference that it is not the official one, not the, let's say, the original, or it's let's say, a copy. Yes, so the last three slides, so then we are through. This is Phantasmagoria. The first idea of the project is to collect images of nature and create abstract videos of different landscapes. The visitors can watch the video with the created interpolations with relaxing music, play with different objects and instruments, and thus add musical notes to the main melody. In addition, the notes will modulate the parameters of the interpolation. The second idea of the project is to define an art installation that creates an audiovisual experience. Through the creation of data sculptures, each tells the story of an era by allowing the audience to dream with the machine itself. And we have four different kinds of eras. The first one is Renaissance, 15th century, classical music with works by Brunelleschi, Donatello, Botticelli, Leonardo, Michelangelo. The second scenario is Baroque music with works with Rubens, Rembrandt, and Caravaggio. The third is Expressionism and the 1930s, 1940s music with jazz music and also masterpieces by Matisse, Kandinsky, Pollock. And the last one is Futurism with synthesizer musics from 1980s, works by Cindy Sherman, Anselm Kiefer, and Frank Gehry. The last two slides, the project is automatic mind map creation. The project uses AI ideas to translate texts into images in a meaningful way, based on over 200 mind maps created by an artist during lectures at the University of Luxembourg, and the existing text information sources, an automatic conversion of the text sources into images is carried out. Purification, the film with your music, the music pieces created by the visitors, and the AI technologies can be integrated as a soundtrack into the poetic documentary film Purification. Based on the hand movements and facial emotions of the visitors, a piece of music is generated that combines the short film and their own music. So this is the Butler slide. That basically says that apart from these different projects that you have seen very briefly, we have also some other, let's say, events. For example, AI courses for the artists. Let's say some creative industrial demonstrations, exhibitions, living lab and outreach activities, and so on. Also, and school children and pupils and students, society in general is very much invited to join. So this is the last slide, and I would like to thank very much to all who have been involved, or to all who are currently involved in this whole project. And I'm sure I could not, let's say, put them all on this slide. There are lots of students, maybe here and there some other persons who contribute to this project very much. Last point I would say is that we have inauguration events 26th of February. This is the official one by ASH 2022. And then on the 3rd of March, this is, let's say, an event where the rector of the university has invited to. And there, let's say, our project will be presented. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Maybe I was a little bit too long, but I hope the presentation was not too boring. And so I would like to make the presentation available. And if you are interested in the different videos, please feel free. Thank you very much.